Ahoy, ahoy, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the DCL Show, the show where we help you navigate the waters of Disney Cruise Line. I am your captain today, Craig Williams, and today I'm joined alongside by my co-captains, Dreams Unlimited travel agent Elaine Edwards.
Hi, friends.
And senior editor of DCLFan.com, Jackie Gailey.
Hi, everyone.
Well, today we are going to continue our discussion about Alaska and sailing on Disney Cruise Line in Alaska. And last time around, we talked about the ship experience and, our top tips for what to do on the ship with an Alaskan sailing. And now we're going to start discussing more of the port experience. This isn't necessarily relegated only to Disney Cruise Line in this way, but we're probably going to talk a little bit more about the glacier experience, which is very, that Disney Cruise Line. You need to know the breakdown of that specifically. So a little bit of it is just for Disney Cruise Line, and everything else, you can do it on your own too. If you're on another cruise line as well, there's always options. There's a lot to see and do in Alaska. Before we get to that, though, I want to remind you this is brought to you by Dreams Unlimited Travel. If you like our content and you want to support us, book a vacation through Dreams Unlimited Travel. It costs you no extra money, and you get the support of one of the awesome Dreams Unlimited Travel agents. So head over to dreamsunlimitedtravel.com today for a free, no obligation quote. And this is also brought to you by our Patreon supporters. And if you want more information on how to get exclusive content from the Diz team, head to patreon.com/DizUnlimited. Okay. You know what? I'm going to take a little bit of a lateral movement on this here, break off to the side, not necessarily, going away from the topic, but maybe take us on a little bit of a tangent here as I try to over-explain this rather than just doing it. Disney Cruise Line sails to Alaska out of Vancouver. And so we're not going to get into hotel recommendations and all that. The best hotel for you is the hotel that you can afford, in my opinion. And that's we can argue on that. That's how I feel about that. If you want to stay right beside the port, spend more money than you should, go ahead with there. But you know what? A hotel by the airport and a taxi Uber ride will also, it'll get you to the same place inevitably, and that's to the port. But for Vancouver, while y'all were there, was there anything that stood out as a must do, top tips for Vancouver that you think people should see or do? You don't have to have one. I've got to, I'm not going to force you.
I just want to know why you didn't like your hotel. Oh, sorry, Jackie. I just didn't want to know why you didn't like your hotel that had the doll from Squid Games in it.
I loved my hotel. My hotel was great. My hotel was booked as I was flying to Vancouver and booked at a very ridiculously expensive price to get close to your hotel, but also give me my own room. And I would never have paid the amount that I did for it. So thanks, Dreams Unlimited Travel, for covering that. I've stayed very close to the port. I've also stayed, a quarter of a mile away from the port, and ultimately Vancouver is a very walkable city. Even with luggage, it's a very easy city to get around. You can always get a drop off to the port, so I think you can go either way. The hotels by the port, pretty nice, pretty comfortable, but ridiculously expensive, even with exchange rates.
It was just the when you walked into your lobby, there was the doll that looked like the doll from Squid Games, and it was all over me.
Yeah. Oh, no. And I looked like the poorest person in that hotel, too, especially at night. I hated walking into it because I'm like, everyone here is dressed up in suits and dresses, and I'm literally walking in a hoodie, just looking awful. So the main thing I just want to give a tip with Vancouver is obviously get in a couple days early. There's a lot to see and explore around the city. You can do it. You can't do everything in one day, but I think you can knock off a good amount. The biggest tip I can give is you're going to be staying somewhere closest to the port, I'm assuming. So just pop over to Stanley Park. It is a very, very big, beautiful park that is just kind of right down the way from where the port is, maybe like half a mile at max. You can rent a bike and bike all the way around the park. There's a brewery that's in there where you can grab a bite and a beer. It's just, it's a beautiful little green spot in the middle of Vancouver, and I really, really recommend that. Of course, you got to stop by and see the Olympic Torch too, which is very, very close to the port, just a little walking way down from there. So that's something neat to see. Walk down to where like the steam clock is, and I think that's Steam Town, and kind of look at some of the restaurants there, shopping. That's a really awesome area. If you can go across the bridge, go to the other side of Vancouver, and kind of like make your way to some of the entertainment that's over there. There's this one like suspension bridge that I did one time while I was over there. Absolutely terrifying. Don't recommend it to everyone, but I also recommend it to everyone. Absolutely do that. It's Vancouver has
Scary.
more than you could ever possibly do in even a couple days, and it is such a beautiful city. So I really do recommend getting there early and just try to see as much as possible.
It's like its own destination. Like, there's so much. We used to go. One of my favorite things to do is to go over to Granville Island, and they've got an amazing just shopping. It reminds me of flea markets that I used to go to in New York, in Brooklyn. It's just so cool. There's so many different vendors, and there's so much different food there that you could spend a whole day on Granville Island. It's so fun. Vancouver is such a destination all on its own. You definitely need a few days. I agree with that.
Mm-hmm. Plus, if you're from the East Coast and you get there a few days early, it will help you with that time adjustment so that you're not on the ship and falling asleep during dinner, because it's like 3 hours past your bedtime and you're just sitting down for dinner kind of a situation.
Yeah.
The big thing that stuck out to me at Vancouver, one is the food was fantastic. There was a lot of local restaurants there that the food was really, really good, but it was the people. Like, everybody was so nice. Everybody I encountered and ever talked to, they were just really, really nice. They were happy to talk to you, that kind of thing. But a big tip that I have is, if you are staying close to the port, is to, on your embarkation day, get up early, walk down to the pier, and go all the way out to the giant blue raindrop. Go all the way out there, and you can watch the ship come in. And as the Wonder comes in and it comes under the bridge, the sun is rising behind it, and you can get some amazing, beautiful pictures of that ship. It'll come in and then it'll completely spin around because it's going to back in, and you can get some gorgeous pictures with the sunset coming over it. So yeah, it was fun to watch.
No, absolutely beautiful. And the last plug I'll give on Vancouver, you're going to have to Uber to get there and take a ride share or taxi. But if you're a tiki person, Shameful Tiki is incredible. So that's my last plug for that. But let's move on to now more of the Alaska parts of this discussion, and we'll start with the of going up the Inside Passage day and your Glacier day, and just say absolutely as a top tip, if you can get on the extra little boat to get you as close as possible to the glaciers, and you listened to our advice in the first episode of this and made sure your budget was going all towards those excursions, you have to get on this thing. I know it was expensive as sin, but anytime I am on a DCL ship going to Alaska now, I think that's going to have to be a must for me. It was just beyond incredible. Words can't even describe it.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, and it's about 3 hours long. And so I, again, was in this mindset during this cruise that I don't know if I'm ever going to be back here. I'm going to treat this like I just want to be immersed as much as possible. So I said, I'm going to be outside the entire time. And it did not matter if it was raining or if it was cold. I tried to stay outside of that little tender boat as much as that 3 hours as I possibly could. When they opened up the very top deck, once you actually got to the glacier, you could go up there. And it was an incredible experience, because you're not just seeing the glacier, they're pointing out all kinds of wildlife in the mountains next to you. They take you to a couple of waterfalls. You get to see the wonder like from the outside and from the, ocean next to it. And it's an incredible experience.
Yeah. You might have great weather with it, but we walked away drenched, cold, fatigued, drunk off of glacier margaritas, and I would not change a single second of it. It was you could say the weather was the worst that I've ever experienced when I've been in Alaska. Maybe not the worst, but close to it. But it also is a core memory for me with Alaska. So
yes, 100%. Like that day, 1,000%, I consider that a core memory day. Like I will never forget that day, because it was amazing. And I knew it was raining and I knew I was cold, but I almost just didn't even feel it, because I was just too immersed in everything going on. And I every once in a while I go back and I look at the pictures from that day, and I had the hugest smile on my face in all of the pictures, because it was amazing. It was unreal. It was unreal.
Yeah, it felt unreal to me too. Unreal is the perfect word. And you know what blew me away? You guys might laugh, but one of the things that blew me away about sailing up the Inner Passage was the color of the water. That glacier blue was unreal to me. And I just kept taking pictures and pictures and pictures, because I wanted to try to just capture that color. It was unbelievable. Like, it almost reminded me of that clear glass blue that you see in some places in the Caribbean. Like, it was such an aqua tone. It was so beautiful. It's like nothing you've ever seen before, and you just are standing there and you can't believe what you're looking at. And it was just, and like how you said about them pointing out the wildlife, I just missed flipping around to see a seal on a big floating piece of ice. And I was so bummed. I'm like, oh.
We didn't have a ton of seal luck. Like there was a lot popping up, but they were like going away fast. Time before that I was in Alaska, like it was seal overload. Every time you looked off, you would see a seal. So that always changes. You never know. But like, I mean, on this cruise, we saw a mountain goat, and we were pretty close to it too. And I'm like, wow, that was a first for me. Yeah. Yeah. So.
And they literally do they're standing there on the edge, and that's just what they do. They're just standing there chilling with their buddies. Animals.
Just weird mountain goats. So
that's
that
you have to bring binoculars. That's one of my biggest tips for that too. My hubby bought me a really nice pair of binoculars before that trip, and you want to bring those with you if you do that tender boat. Bring them with you, because the mountain goats aren't very big. I mean, you could see them without binoculars, but if you get your binoculars out, it's really fun.
Yeah.
To see them close.
That's a great point. And I was going to say, literally at the exact same time, I think that you also can't just settle back with your phone. Get a camera with a good zoom, whether it's like a big DSLR with a really long lens, or you get a good digital camera with a decent magnifying zoom. You're going to want that, because the 3x, 5x on your phone, you're just going to get grainy images where in another 5 years, you're not going to be able to tell what the heck you were taking a picture of. As technology gets better, get a good camera, so like when those animals are far away or anything's far off in the distance, you get that shot that you want to help remember it. But I think we all three can sit here and say, yeah, you have to do that. Find the money, pull whatever strings you have to, threaten families.
Sell a kid.
do whatever you can to be able to get on that excursion. But now let's move into the three main ports and give some recommendations, top tips for excursions for the three main ports, starting with Skagway, since that's the first one you're going to hit. This is in the just bordering the Yukon territory, so very much a gold mining town. Kind of looks like an old west town in a way too. The main highlight for many people here is the train that takes you up into the Yukon territory, and some people just like to stick to town. I know we all did different excursions. I've done the most excursions here, so I'll try to guide you. But why don't each of you, Elaine and Jackie, remind people from, if you weren't watching back when we did our Alaska coverage, what excursions did you do and would you recommend them? Starting with Elaine.
So I did the Best of Skagway, which was actually an 8-hour excursion. It went all day, and it started with the train ride, and it was the exact same train ride that you book on your own separately. Same exact thing. And I actually wasn't really excited about this. Like, I thought I would be kind of bored on it. But I got the little program and I followed along and I read all of the information, and they tell you stories about each of the points and everything. And that made it a lot more interesting for me. The pro tip on this one is they will tell you when you get on, it does not matter what side you sit on. Do not listen to them and sit on the left side. Just trust me. They will say, it doesn't matter because you go up and you go down the exact same way. So if you don't see it going up, you'll see it going down. The problem is when you see it going down, they aren't talking anymore. So you're not getting the story of the thing that you're looking at because you've already passed it.
And
so that is
also
my pro
physics.
tip.
You're going down on the way back down versus going up on the way up.
So definitely sit on the left side. That is my pro tip for that. So did the train. Then they took us on they had a coach bus, and we had the same driver the entire day. So from there, she took us through the town. She told us lots of stories about the town. She told us lots of stories about the people living there, what their life is like, that kind of thing. And then we went to Liarsville, which is this kind of gold mining community that's set up, and we could walk around. It's kind of like a little settlement community. So we could walk around, we could go in all the buildings. They had a little play that they put on. Then we actually went gold mining and panned for gold. And so we learned how to do that. And they took our little flakes that they found and they bottled them up for it. So I got to take those home. And then they took us over to have a Alaskan salmon bake. It was so good. And then we got back on the bus and we kind of went up the mountain a little bit to this like lookout point where we could actually see the entire town and see the port behind it. And there was a couple ships lined up there. We could see the window, but then there was a couple other ships and they were all lined up. Took a bunch of pictures, hung out there for like 15 minutes. And then they took us down to the Red Onion, which is a saloon. And it also is a entertainment facility. And they took us on a tour through that and told us all kind of stories. Actually gave us a glass of champagne to drink while we were on the tour. And it was very, very interesting. And so then from there we came out, we got back on the bus, and they took us back to the ship. And it was the full 8 hours. And I will tell you, I sat down and I did the math, just even based off of how much it costs just to do the train, based on how much this thing costs, and the amount of things that we did. It was a heck of a deal. If this is offered, I 100% recommend it. I think it's an adult-only thing. I'm not sure if you could put kids on this or not, but it was, it is 1,000% worth it, because I feel like when you're looking at the available excursions for Alaska, a lot of the ports have a lot of the same things, but I think it's kind of hard because there's all these very stereotypical Alaska things that you want to do, but you only have so much time to do it all in. And, you got to kind of make choices. This hit so much of that because you got the train, you got the scenery, you got the gold mining experience, you got the salmon bake experience, you had the Red Onion Saloon experience. So you had a whole bunch of that historical, typical Alaska stuff all in one giant excursion, and it was 100% worth it to me. And I would do it again and again, and I would recommend it again and again.
Perfect. And Jackie, your excursion, would you recommend it?
So I would. Yeah, I would. For people who just want to do, just sort of see the town and not be gone from the ship the whole entire day. I'm also the kind of a person that I love a train ride. I will take a train ride over any other form of transportation. But when I was doing some research, I figured out that the train goes very high up. And because I wasn't sure of, are you going to be on the edge of a mountain and then be able to see down? I'm really afraid of heights. And so anyway, I was too scared to do the trip that Elaine did. I was just too scared to do it because I didn't know how that was going to be. And sometimes I feel bad that I'm so wussy about being up high, especially here in Washington and up in Canada. There's a lot of super high train tracks where you can see down for miles, what feels like miles. And so I was like, oh God, I don't think I can do it. So we did a really cool, it was like an antique trolley looking vehicle, and we drove all around Skagway. And so the conductor, she talked to us all about the history of Skagway and how it was, created and what went on, however many years ago. And it was really cool to learn the history. We learned that they can't build a new building in Skagway unless they theme it to the 1920s so that the town keeps its look. And I love old towns. I love the Victorian era. And so Skagway was just so adorable to me, and seeing some of the houses and the Victorian style of some of the buildings, I found it fascinating. It was really cool. We went to a lookout point where we could see our ship from a distance, about halfway up a mountain. And that was really cool. I definitely recommend it if you're not into the more active kinds of excursions, because it's a real great way to see Skagway without, having to spend the whole day doing that. Then they dropped us off where you could go into town and just kind of meander through the shops. And that was really fun. Not very far from the ship. So I enjoyed that. And if I go on this cruise again with my husband, we would probably do that one again, because it's, like I said, it's just a great way to see the whole town and learn more about what they do there and just how life is for the people. I mean, they go to Canada to do their shopping. They don't have like a big grocery store. In fact, there's not even a doctor or even a hospital in Skagway. So if there's a medical emergency, you have to be flown out by a helicopter. And she said it was like $30,000 to do that. So some serious considerations to be made if you're planning on moving to Skagway. But anyway,
you're not moving to Skagway. Skagway is definitely a place for people who are working there for the summer cruise season. But there's 200 people that stay there year round. It's for very particular people. So it's a beautiful cruise port. It is absolutely my favorite cruise port as part of an Alaskan cruise with the major ones. I respect the opinion of Elaine and Jackie thoroughly with this, but after doing 3 of these now, my number one major recommendation of it is rent a Jeep get your own Jeep. You're in the port for so long that you would have to majorly screw up in order to miss your ship and get back out of there. You are in there a long time. I think this is one of the ones where you don't leave the port until 8 o'clock. So you have the entire day. So I would recommend renting a Jeep, making sure you got your passports and all that. You will have that because you have to do that for Canada. And you can drive all the way back into Canada in the Yukon Territory. You can see Carcross. That's kind of like a little hub that is up there in the Yukon Territory. My family and I drove all the way to a really beautiful spot called Emerald Lake, which, is a lake that has that like green emerald hue to it. Really beautiful. Once you get all the way up into Canada, you'll have dog sled experiences, which I feel like are better than the ones associated with the ships. It felt like it was a little bit more humane, so I enjoy that more. But schedule that out for a block of the day. If you're driving yourself, if you're not a part of a convoy with a cruise ship, you can stop as much as you want. You can, you get to set your own schedule. That's why I recommend doing it by yourself. But save time for Skagway itself too. It is such a beautiful town. As Jackie said, it's kind of locked into that time period. So it's very unique in that way. My recommendations here are to hit Klondike Brewing. That is kind of it's a craft beer bar that I feel like is a little bit more high end beer. So if you just like to stick to like a Bud Light, something like that, you might not like that one as much. There's also Skagway Brewing Company. They have my favorite Spruce Tip Ale, and that's a great spot to get some beer at. And then I also like their food too. Their halibut fish and chips. Excellent. It costs a lot of money. Everything in Alaska costs a lot of money because you're basically out in the middle of nowhere. But that's my Skagway recommendations. And it's about a 10-minute walk from the ship to actual downtown Skagway. So factor that in, but it's not that bad. But yeah, don't wait till the last second and be like, I'm right there. It's not a big deal. Give yourself that extra 10 to 15 minutes to get back to the ship. So Elaine?
I have one more little add-on, is that if you're going to do any kind of tour, what I did or similar to what I did, we went to 5 or 6 different places. At every single place, you get to the end of it and they're standing there with their hand out. And so definitely bring a lot of cash with you. Because they want you to tip them. So at the train, they wanted you to tip them. At the Liarsville, every single person that was there wanted you to tip them. At the Red Onion, when we went through it, the girl, you were not going down those stairs to leave until you handed her money. So it was I was unprepared for that. So I was really like digging in my bag. But just be prepared that, these people are there working very hard to make a lot of money. So just be prepared that they're going to want to be tipped at every stop.
It's fair. I say tip at your own discretion. Like with the train, I didn't feel like there was anything worth value because on the last cruise, Rhino and I did the train and then we did a dog sled place, and I just don't recommend either of those, but that's just my opinion with it. I didn't feel obligated at all to tip in either of those, but like when we got to our Juneau excursion, it was like our guide was so great. I was like, he went above and beyond. I am happy to throw him extra money that way because of it. So they are going to always expect you
on all of these excursions. The bus drivers want you to tip them as well.
Yeah, and like that to me, sometimes in some circumstances, if it was the same person who drove you and then also gave you the history and give it like that, I'm more likely to do it with. But you are right. Every single person wants a tip, and at some point, you're like, "What the hell did I pay for?" If I'm just tipping everyone along the way too. So I personally say tip at your own discretion with it. When you see a person who goes above and beyond, feel free to. They'll also have Venmo out and ready for you if it's something that they're really, really good with. But Juneau, let's move on to that. I know you, Jackie, and Elaine, you did the same excursion in Juneau, and I know Jackie's is going to be more dramatic telling, so I'm going to have Elaine explain it, and then guys weigh in, say if you would do it again.
You don't want my drama?
So I'll do the first half, and I'll let Jackie do the second half.
No, we've established Jackie is afraid of heights, so yes, she's going to say it was the most terrifying thing in the world, and I looked at it, and I was like, I think I have a bigger hill in my backyard that's completely flat.
Wait a minute. Now, there are no hills in Florida. Yeah. None.
So this was a 2-part excursion, and this was a situation where Jackie was already booked on this, and then Rhino and Craig were booked on their kayak trip, and I'm kind of looking, and there wasn't a lot left over to book because we booked this cruise just a couple of weeks before it departed. So there was a lot of things that were full, and I'm looking, and I'm like, there's just nothing to book. So I just glommed onto Jackie's and went with her. And so it was a 2-parter where first they took you in a bus to say it so that I can remember it.
Mendenhall Glacier.
Mendenhall Glacier. I was afraid I was going to say it wrong. Mendenhall Glacier. And there was a nature center there that you could walk through. There was a movie, that kind of thing. And then they had 3 different paths that you could go down of varying distances. And the big thing is that the gal that drove us said, I will be back here at this time. And I feel like it was like an hour. Like we only had like an hour or like 45 minutes there. I feel like we didn't have that long at all. Short. It was very short, and it was very crowded. There was like 30 buses there. There was just people and people and people and people everywhere. So even just to get into the nature center was just a ton of people. So I said, I'm just going to start walking. So I left and took off on the long path that went all the way to the glacier. It was the one that went the furthest towards the glacier. And I think the whole round thing is like 2 miles, maybe. And like I said, you only had at that point, I think we had like half an hour left. So I was huffing it.
You were sprinting.
It was a nice sunny day. But the trail, it's a nature trail. So I was wearing like some waterproof boots. And I was getting hot, but at least my feet were dry. But I huffed it out there. And there was a lot of people on the trail. So I was passing people, going as fast as I could, got all the way out there. There's like a sandbar that goes all the way out there. And there's like a waterfall, and then there's a glacier. And here's the thing. If you go all the way out there, all you see is the waterfall. You don't actually see the glacier. So there's a spot not quite as far that you can go out on to the side, and you can actually see some of the glacier. So don't think that you're getting super close to the glacier. You're getting super close to a waterfall with the glacier on the other side of it. It was fine. I will probably never do it again. It was fine. I would rather do kayaking or something like that to get a little bit more into it, like Craig and Rhino did. And then we went to our second half of our experience with Jackie.
That was...
Okay, just let her explain it then. But Jackie, let's save the dramatics.
Yeah. Look, I have to be given a warning to save the dramatics. Some of you might not care about this. We had this very innocent little they called it a rainforest. Or let me tell you what it was exactly called. It was a Glacier Gardens rainforest tour. Okay. So we went in, and they said that the viewing platform was going to be 800 feet in the air. So I was like, 800 feet, I can do that. That's better than several thousand, right? So we get into this vehicle, and we're driving up a mountain, and we're doing sort of the back and forth. I forget what the technical word is for it. Up, up. And we get up to the top. It's got a beautiful view. And I was like, wow, okay. Well, I was glad to be out of the vehicle because going up was a little sketchy for me and I was a little white knuckled. But we spent a little bit of time up at the top. And then the ride down was horrifying for me. So I'll save the dramatics. But I did write an article when this was all fresh in my mind. So there's a lot more details in there in my article about our Juneau day, but I wasn't a fan of the trip back down. The rainforest part was a little confusing to me because when I think of a rainforest, I think of, the rainforest that you see in tropical places like in Hawaii and whatnot. It was not like that, but it was really cool. It was really pretty. They had a little coffee bar that you could, get a cup of coffee, get a muffin or whatever. And that was really that was cool. We had a cup of coffee. We were freezing. So the vehicle was outdoor. So it was cold, but I was a little shaken up after this one. So just, I wouldn't do it again.
Well, I think we got it there. Yeah. Top tips, don't do the excursion they did. I will say, though, I think Mendenhall Glacier is a must for Juneau if you can time it in, but not as you don't need to spend your entire day there as a stopover. I think that's a must do for that area. I hear the dog sledding is spectacular in Juneau. So if that's the day you can do real dog sledding, not see dog sledding camps, do one of the fly to a glacier and dog sled. I hear that's the best place to do it. I just have never been able to experience it because it's always been canceled. I have whale watched in Juneau and we did not have any issues seeing whales. Didn't see orcas there because apparently you'll see them once a week and that's it. So if you go on that day, you don't get to see them, you won't see them. I will say this is another thing to consider with whale watching in Juneau. You can get on a cruise ship excursion where they'll pack hundreds of people on a boat and you're all shoved in trying to look, or you can book through a private company and you can make sure that you're on a boat with maybe 20 people max. I would think about spending the extra money to do it so you have the more comfortable experience, and they'll actually drive around to try to find the whales for you versus just going their normal destinations. The tramway to get up to the top of Mount Roberts, you'll see it right in the middle of downtown Juneau, a big giant, gondola that goes up. I've heard it's fantastic. However, every time I've been there, it's maybe you can sneak it in at the end of the day and go up there and see the views. But the problem is the line to come down can sometimes be very, very long. And that puts you in the risk of, getting left behind by your cruise ship. So only do that if you have time budgeted. The one time they said it was a 2-hour wait to get back down the mountain. So not a great position to be in. And then for me, I've got to give my beer recommendations and food recommendations. My main one is Devil's Club Brewing. They had awesome food there and the best beer that I had in Juneau. I also will always recommend Alaskan Brewing. It's available in a lot of the continental United States now in bottles and cans, but it's cool to see their brewery. It's a bit of a ride out, so you'll have to take a ride share or take their shuttle, but that is only timed out at certain points. But you can also get it in every single bar and restaurant in the area, so that's a way to try more of their beers there too. And it's available on your DCL ship. And then Barnaby Brewing, it wasn't bad. I would definitely go back there, but that's the least, that's the lowest on my list in terms of Juneau. But yeah, definitely try to see Mendenhall Glacier, and I would whale watch if I went back there again. For Ketchikan, why don't I'm going to explain Ketchikan because I think we all went together as a team, right? Or was Jackie, did you not go with us to the...
Yeah, we did.
To the night we did. Yeah.
Okay. We were all together?
Yeah.
Okay. I remember myself there. I remember Rhino there. I remember Elaine there. I couldn't remember you being there, Jackie. I am so sorry. A lot of it I tried to block my mind out. Ketchikan, the last port, and not Juneau is the capital. Ketchikan is, I feel like, the wood capital of all the places you'll see. It's very rustic. It was kind of buried in the trees, a great place to see totems. There's a whole lot to like about Ketchikan, seeing Creek Street and the fish jumping up and down it. One of the biggest sells of Ketchikan, and what we made our excursion there was the Great Alaskan Lumberjack Show, and it is a kitschy show that takes place right outside of where the DCL ships dock. There's an exclusive Disney Cruise Line show that you can book for extra money, where you get to see a Disney character as part of the pre-celebrations of the show. And then after that, if you've ever seen a lumberjack competition on TV, you've seen the Great Alaskan Lumberjack Show, except there's the weasel in that show who's constantly running around stealing wood chips. I think it's one of those things, it is probably a rite of passage to do it once. But that being said, if you are not going to go to Alaska more than once in your lifetime, I would also not waste time doing this. If you think you're going back, maybe save it for that next time. Even if you do no excursion in Ketchikan, I still feel like it might be worth your time more than going to see the Great Alaskan Lumberjack Show. But I don't know. If we would have had a couple drinks before it, maybe it would have felt differently. But I was like, this is too much.
I just felt like it was more like, if you have younger kids, go. Definitely go.
Yeah.
They will have a great time. It is 100% meant for them. But I think even if you're traveling as just adults, or even adults with just teenagers, skip it.
Yep.
So so we went to that, and then we ate at Fish House that was right there off the ship, right?
Yes, the Alaskan Fish House, that is also on my recommendations. It is right literally as soon as you get off the Disney Cruise Line ship, it is right there. It is, again, it's expensive. Everything's expensive in Alaska, but I have eaten there now many times. We ate there twice that day because it just was the best tasting fish that I had in the ports. And it is. Yeah, maybe locals to Ketchikan will sit here and say, you're an idiot, it's awful, there's better places. I like it. I like it a lot. So
I loved it. It was really, really, really good. So we saw the show, we went to that, and then that's when we went out to Creek Street. And I was disappointed because it was like 4:00 when we got there. So all of the like shops and houses and everything were closed. Like everything was closed up. So we couldn't go in any of them. So I was kind of disappointed about that, but it was really cool because we were there for a solid 2 hours just watching salmon literally swimming upstream and the seals catching them.
Yeah.
And we did that for 2 hours because it was so fun.
It's a must do. I mean, Creek Street is, again, kitschy, and it's a little cheesy, and a lot of the shops and stuff, you get the same merchandise in other parts of the port. So I think it's more about being in that area, feeling like that, this feels a little authentic. But really, this area is about that salmon run and seeing the seals or the sea lions, whichever one they are. I never can tell the difference. I'm ignorant to that, but seeing them catch the salmon that couldn't quite make it up. I know depending on the time of year that you're there, you also have the chance to see bears getting the salmon that do make it up. So you might get a 2-for-1 deal on that. But Creek Street is an absolute must in this area. Visiting the totems, I've seen there's one totem garden that's kind of close by that I believe it's free to see some of the totems in that area. I would recommend that. My main recommendation that I'll give here, I wish I knew the name of the company too, but this port, you're going to see a lot of seaplanes going nonstop as you're sitting out on your ship. This is a great place to do a seaplane if you're going to. If they can be terrifying. I mean, these feel like old rickety planes that are landing in the water. That's exactly what they are. I will also be completely honest. They have made the news headlines before for accidents as well too. So I would say do research. look for a trusted pilot that you feel comfortable getting on with, and a trusted company. That's what my family did, and we had a spectacular time because of it. It's cramped, but the sights, the views are amazing. It's it crossed off a bucket list item for me, and so I would recommend that. And then I have to give my brewery choice, and that's the only one that is there. Bodden Street Brewing, unless other ones have come along. Good beer, locals, plenty of locals were sitting in there. Great conversation. Absolutely recommend it. So I just took that over there. But Jackie and Elaine, any other top tips, recommendations for Ketchikan?
Yeah, because that's all I did, because I didn't do any kind of excursion or anything there. I just actually stayed on the ship until it was time to go to the show, got off, went to the show, ate at Fish House, and then we were down at Creek Street, and then we just kind of walked around downtown until it was time to get back on the ship, and then we were the last ones on the ship.
We did our running, but Jackie, what about you?
So I actually did do an excursion in Ketchikan, and it was a really, really cool one. So just a little bit about it. It was a duck boat tour. And so if you're not familiar with a duck boat, they've got one here in Seattle too. But what it is it's an amphibious vehicle, and it's a big vehicle. It's not like the ones you see at the boathouse at Disney Springs. It's really big. So you climb up in that, and you are taken on a tour of Ketchikan. So we went to Creek Street, stopped there, not for quite as long as you guys spent there, but stopped there for a little bit and watched the salmon doing their thing. And the driver took us around to some of the main points in the town. And then after that was done, we drove right into the water and went on a boat ride. So in the same vehicle, and it was just the coolest thing. So, and we got to watch seaplanes taking off, landing, and it was fascinating to watch them so close from the water. It was cool to see Ketchikan from out there in the water. Just a really cool way to see the town from out in the water. And it was cool to see the waterfront. I would definitely recommend doing that one, and I would do it again if I went up to Alaska again. I think it was really cool. So I'd want to spend a little bit more time walking around the town. We did walk around the waterfront a bit and poked into some of the shops here and there, and we did grab lunch in town at the same place you guys did, and I believe that it was the same place. And anyway, it was really cool. We had a great day there, and like Craig said, a lot of the merch that you see is a lot of the same stuff. So touristy things that say Ketchikan on them. No. So
that being said, I also, every now and then when you're at like one of those t-shirt shops, companies where it's like it feels like everyone has the same stuff. Some of my favorite clothes that I've gotten from Alaska, actually the designs are the best in those shops. So don't just walk past them being like, oh, $5 sweatshirts. Do I really need that? I still have some from years and years ago. So you never know what you'll find. So don't don't knock them until you try them. But I think we gave you a ton of recommendations, top tips for all the different ports: Vancouver, Skagway, Ketchikan, Juneau, as well as the Glacier Day. We gave you all the top tips there. So if you have any more questions, obviously feel free to reach out, and we will try to give you even more recommendations or just answer any questions a little bit more thoroughly. So Jackie, Elaine, thank you so much for your input this episode.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone out there, for taking the time to listen and watch this week's episode of the DCL Show. We really appreciate it. If you want to support us more, book a vacation through Dreams Unlimited Travel. Get a free no-obligation quote today at dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. And if you want to support us more, get exclusive content, patreon.com/disunlimited. If you are watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel, leave comments, questions, video suggestions in the comment section. Hit that thumbs up. And if you're listening to this, subscribe wherever you listen to the podcast and leave us ratings and reviews when possible. But that's going to do it for this week's episode of the DCL Show. Again, I really hope you join us next time we set sail with another episode of the DCL Show. But until then, remember, you can't get to Castaway Cay except for Disney Cruise Line.